Speaking of risk, you talk about de-risking your risk. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, after you take that first risk, right, which is the risk of going against the grain, of seeing something in a new way and going, off the beaten path, so to speak, then your job is to de-risk risk. And that entrepreneurs, the best entrepreneurs, aren't risk maximizers, they're risk minimizers.
Which is surprising to a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think they do this in a number of ways. I think we talked about stop planning, start doing, and gathering proof points. I think that most innovations are not these radical breakthrough innovations. They're a series of mini innovations, minivations. Minivations. So you just have to minovate a little and constantly test, and it's an iterative process. But more than that, I mentioned that half the Inc. 500 companies started with $5,000 or less. So this idea that you have to bet the farm and go all in and max out your credit cards is just not true. And especially in today's world where we do have crowdfunding and crowdsourcing, it's even easier to just test a little bit and get market feedback and get a little bit of money. And I think that that's one way that entrepreneurs reduce risk. The other way is personal. And we envision people quitting their jobs, going all in on day one. I think that more often than not, people straddle both worlds for a while. Now, I find people straddle them often for too long, and
Right.
At some point you do need to close doors. But not at the beginning. So two of the stories that I tell in the book are Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, right? We all know and love her products. And she spent 2 years selling fax machines as her new, hosiery line was taking off, until Oprah named her stockings her among Oprah's favorite things.
And that is a day you can quit your day job.
That is a day, exactly. And now Spanx is over $1 billion company.
Wow.
Phil Knight, this actually really surprised me. Phil Knight of Nike, I had always heard the story of him selling Nike shoes in his Plymouth Valiant, truck. What I didn't realize is he wasn't doing the selling. He was an accountant. He was doing taxes, and some other guy was selling the shoes at first. And he spent almost a decade as an accountant doing other people's taxes.
Wow.
But it's only when he quits after Nike's gotten some traction, and it actually then gets named Nike and starts taking off. So, and the other thing that I talk about, which is, you mentioned earlier that I was known as the stalker, is that you don't have to have access to these huge networks, and that often entrepreneurs are outsiders that need to be persistent, they need a creative way in, and people are open to hearing your ideas. Today with LinkedIn, you can kind of virtually stalk. But I think the point is, you start testing, you hit doors, you go against them, but it's not this fairy tale, as you were saying, You're constantly, entrepreneurship is a constant tension between taking risk and mitigating risk. And that's what it is at the beginning and throughout the journey.